Hello and welcome to an episode of the Say Report with such a clever name, I'm not going to say it for the entire length of this episode. No, ladies and gentlemen, this episode of the Say Report has such a clever name that we're going to record the whole episode, and then I'm going to ask Sejohn if he knows what I named this episode. Hopefully it's going to be fun for you who already knows the name of the episode, and hopefully Sejohn beefs it so hard that we can laugh about it through at least the first day of spring. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, the aforementioned punching bag, Sejohn Sarowick. Sejohn?
Yeah, I'm like, way to make me so nervous before we start recording an episode that I can't even think about anything else now. Fantastic.
I know, I totally knew I was going to be putting the pressure on you, and I weighed that. As I sat here at the computer waiting for Skype to actually call you, I'm like, is this rude to Sejohn? Am I putting an undue pressure on him? And then I thought, yes, I am, and hit record.
There you go. And that's how it works, folks. How the sausage is made.
Sausage. So hi.
What's going on, Dev?
Not much, Sejohn. After you. Yeah, let you're gonna lead. No pressure.
Jeez, man. Okay. Boy. No, it's been a pretty boring week, honestly. We did our whole thing on Captain Marvel last week, and so there's not too much for me to lose my crap about this week. I've just been trying to get caught up on some stuff, you know.
So what's that mean? What does that mean for you?
Well, taking a look at like Switch games, taking a look at any PS4 games that I intended to have. So there's a copy of Resident Evil 2 in this house now.
Yay!
That sort of thing. Yeah, like trying to get all my ducks in a row to get me kind of back to being a nerd. There's been a couple of weeks here, months here, where it's felt like I have not had the cash flow or the time to participate in some of my fandoms, and so just trying to get back to that.
That's cool. And so, in addition to Resident Evil 2 finally being purchased, what else? What else have you looked at? Have you watched some shows? Have you?
I've gotten a few episodes into season 5 of Shield. Just finished up.
Oh, that's cool. Being 2 seasons behind in Agents of Shield.
You can't be 2 seasons behind when season 5 is the last season.
Oh wait, is it really?
Yes.
I thought it was season 6.
Season 6 is the one that they put off till this summer, and then they got okayed for a season 7, despite there not even being a season 6 on the air this season.
Wait a minute, no.
Yes.
No, this whole... So wait, so what has happened for you? I don't want to spoil anything.
I just finished the framework at the end of season 4.
Okay, that was season 4? You know what the problem is with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and why I'm looking at it like that? Is season 4 was... the
Ghost Rider,
and then it was Life Model Decoy, and I viewed both of those as a separate season.
Yeah. No, it's one of the weirder seasons. It takes a real hard swing, but not like it all very much leads into each other, and the resolution brings everything back together very nicely. But it's definitely a hard left all of a sudden when you're going from all of the like. They're learning to accept the fact that maybe there's such a thing as like demons and gods and all this shit, and then on top of that, there's this whole idea that there's also robots, there's AI, and it's a weird combination. But it was really intriguing. I gotta say, like I'm actually having a little bit of a hard time getting into this season simply because it's not those stories. I feel like I've almost done it an injustice by watching them so quickly back to back.
I will actually agree with that. You did an injustice because it really is. It really is. You need a gestation time with what happens in the Life Model Decoy LMD stuff before going into. I mean, how many episodes in are you for season 5?
I think I just did episode 5.
Okay, so what has happened?
Because
I know everything that happens, and I don't want to snafu and ruin anything for you.
So like they've shown up in space, like season 5, the episode when they go to the season when they go to space. Like that's the joke right now.
Yep.
Is and so let's see. They arrived. Obviously, Gemma has been taken as a servant of the Kree, and she's currently a specific Kree, and she's currently helping him like train Inhumans for their like coming out parties. That's the level. That's the episode that I'm on.
All right,
It's
cool,
just
cool, cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
you got so much good Agents of Shield to look forward to.
Yeah, well, and part of it is that I wanted to get caught up. I wanted to really get a good understanding of where Shield was when I go to see uh
Endgame.
Endgame, yeah, the
Yeah.
Endgame in a couple of months. And so I've got a month to get through the rest of the season, and I can easily do it. So yeah, that's the other thing is I've been getting caught up on stuff like that. Um
You're also lucky in a weird way, cause there's so much Kree stuff in season 5 of Agents of Shield, which I now know is season 5 of Agents of Shield, and not season 6. Pew. Uh, but there's so much Kree stuff that I was almost desensitized to it in Captain Marvel. So just right there, your Captain Marvel experience is like at least 2 notches better than mine.
Yeah, but I think everybody seems to forget that we already know the Kree are bad people, or have the potential to be bad people from the Guardian series. So like, I
But
mean,
no, no, no. I
and
disagree. I only disagree because Ronan the Accuser, it's very clear that he is working on his own, that he has gone rogue.
yeah, but he also has Jimon Hansu with him in that movie.
No, he
So
doesn't.
like, yes, he totally does. Jimon Hansu shows up at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. That's how you first meet him. He goes
Really?
after
And then
yes,
he
he goes
shows up
after
in
the stone.
Thor?
He can't. I don't. I
Oh,
actually
is he
honestly
not
don't
in
remember.
Thor?
I don't remember him ever
Maybe
showing
I
up in
maybe
Thor.
I screwed that up. Thor the
Yeah.
Dark World. I thought that he was the guy who got the Aether. But no,
No,
he's just in the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
no. The ether goes to what do you call it? In nowhere. That's where that ends up. That's
No,
why
no, no, no,
nowhere.
no, no, no. But I mean, in Thor the Dark World,
Hmm.
someone is given it and turned into a hulking beast.
Oh,
And I
oh,
thought
oh.
that was Korath, but it's not Korath. Korath is just the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. He
Yeah.
interacts with Star-Lord on the planet.
So as soon as you see him in Captain Marvel, you already know that he's not a
You know
good
that
guy.
he's bad. Yeah, I
Right,
mean, that was
right.
great.
And then the second that they show Ronan, so like that's what I mean is like anybody paying attention in that movie can see the things are not going well for
Well,
that group.
but again, Ronan is very clearly like a right-wing Kree nut. Kree nuts. Kree nut butter. I'm all about this. I'm sorry, Sejohn, I've derailed. Yeah, no, and
No.
it's also the fact that we've if you've been reading comics, the Kree were used for Inhumans.
Well, right, and that's the other thing is this isn't the first time the Kree have been such an influence in Agents of Shield. There's an entire storyline in which they talk about the Kree experimenting on early humans and creating the Inhumans that they end up dealing with, and that's season like 2,
It
right?
is season 2,
3?
yeah. Because season 3 is they're all out there and everything, but the Kree are first alluded to in season 2, and then what's his name comes back as the Hive. I don't
Right,
remember the actual name, but it just reminded me of the Hive
right.
from Spider Woman Volume 3 when it's Maddie Franklin. Oh, I'm a nerd. I mean Ken Jennings called me a nerd. You don't get called a nerd by like the nerdiest Jeopardy guy ever and not have it be true. I hate titles, but then I also just like casually brought up Maddie Franklin, a character that I doubt most Marvel fans know who she is.
Yeah, that'll be the $100 prize in that Marvel trivia game I have.
Okay.
It's so hard. It's crazy crap like that all the time. All right, I love this. Like, I love this thing that it was given to me for Christmas. Somebody out there very clearly knows me, hands me this thing. I opened it up, and the first question was just like, at what point did Reed Richards go through puberty? And it's just like, what? I don't know. I don't know these things about these people.
He went through puberty at age 17.
Oh
It was
man.
delayed.
Oh God.
Was it Reed Richards or Franklin Richards?
You
Are
know,
you sure? Are you sure it asked about Mr. Fantastic's puberty?
well, that whole thing was just a metaphor for puberty anyway. The idea of growing pains and
No, it wasn't.
feeling invisible and being as hard as a rock all the
And
time.
having a fiery temper. Get out of my room, Mom.
Tell me that's not about puberty. Tell me the
Jesus,
Fantastic Four is not about a person
I
going
don't
through
think it
puberty.
was about puberty, but I think if you needed a thesis, that's pretty good. That writes itself.
Oh
Okay.
man. But yeah, like I've just been doing that sort of playing catch up on this end.
That's
How
cool.
about you,
I'm all
man?
about that. I well, before we're the Say report, so we have to talk about something that happened because is finally back.
News.
DuckTales.
Nice.
Ooh. We
Yeah.
had a whole 2 months with no new DuckTales after last year where it felt like there was new DuckTales every week. And DuckTales
And there was
came
a drought.
back,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that DuckTales is back, but I feel weird about it. Did you watch the DuckTales episode?
This is the Moon episode, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one everybody's talking about. So
So did you
I have
watch
not
it?
watched. So I was trying to
Uh,
finish my sentence. So I have not seen it, but I know pretty much everything about
I
it
mean,
because
you
nobody can
do
stop talking.
understand. You do understand when I'm like, "Did you see the episode?" and your response is, "Oh, this is the Moon episode." I immediately jump to, finally, Sejohn's prepared for an episode of the Say Report.
Oh man, no, we'll talk about it again in a year when I watch it.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm going to talk about one thing. Semi spoilers for the DuckTales episode.
Yeah.
The Moon song from the DuckTales NES game featured heavily in the episode. And
Yeah.
at the end, they gave it lyrics. I don't know how I feel about that part. But all of them, I've had the stupid Moon song from DuckTales NES in my head all freaking week because of that episode. And because variations on the Moon theme is basically Nemo's house in Little Nemo the Dream Master.
Very nice.
So my mind will just like cycle through those two songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also because I've been playing a lot of Capcom games. Because over here in Devonland is Spring Break. Spring Break was this week. So I decided that with my spring break, since I'm still going to work, right? But I wanted to do something sort of like vacation-y. And I decided I was going to beat a bunch of video games in my spare time.
Nice.
So I beat some video games this week. I beat Contra. I've beaten Contra before, but I beat it again. I beat Jaws.
I love that your version of a vacation is going to work and coming home and playing a bunch of video games. When I'm pretty sure that could constitute a normal day in your life too.
Okay, but here's the
I'm
difference.
saying live your bliss. That's what I'm saying.
But here, yes, definitely live your bliss. But it's more the fact that specifically I wanted to rack up kills. I wanted to rack up video game kills this week. As I talked about in last week's episode, I played Devil May Cry all last weekend.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry 5, and it is awesome.
Nice.
But don't let me buy it.
Okay.
Like if someone wants to give me a copy of Devil May Cry 5, eternally grateful. Thank you. But I'm gonna own it maybe someday. I finished it. Here's the thing. I sat down on Saturday and I played it for 8 hours straight. I started at 10 and I didn't start at 10. Jesus, I started at 8 o'clock. No, I started at 10. I'm an idiot. I started at 10 o'clock and I played until
8 o'clock my time.
Yeah. Sorry. I played till 6 o'clock at night. So 10 to 6 is 8 hours.
There you go.
Because military time. The problem is I'm trying to think in non-military time because no one understands it, but it makes more sense. But yeah, so I played 8 hours straight through Devil May Cry 5. I got to about the 13th mission. That's where I'm going to guess. Yeah, it was the 13th mission because you had to choose if you were going to go as any of the three characters to complete it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I woke up and I'm like, well, I only rented you from Redbox. I don't want to pay for another day. So I need to finish you today.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down and I played it and I absolutely loved it. And then I got to the final boss and it was just like, my God, this final boss. Am I unprepared for it?
Is the most underwhelming final boss ever, apparently.
Kinda,
Yeah.
kinda. I mean, I just shot missiles at it. I mean, you can watch it on the VOD, but literally, I mean, I fought for a while, and the reason why I did it for a while is because I didn't want to use any recovery items. I
Nice.
wanted to get through it without using recovery items. A, because I'm the person who the first time I played Devil May Cry challenged myself not to use any yellow orbs because that was back when you could choose, which we'll
Mhm.
get to what that means. And then also you get a trophy if you can beat the final two missions without continuing. And since the final two missions are literally just fights, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start from the beginning of the mission, and I will get good.
Right.
It's not like I haven't gotten good in other games, and this one will actually feel rewarding. Because Devil May Cry 5, I don't know how I should feel about it. First of all, I kind of feel like I played the game incorrectly because I
Okay.
rushed right through it. Everyone that I've talked to is like, "Oh, I'm playing it very slowly. I want to enjoy it. I'm playing it deliberately." And I'm like, "Oh no, no, no! I wanted to beat that game. I was into the story and I kind of wanted to finish it." Also, I had a 2-day timer on it, so
Yeah, I mean, you were in certain circumstances. Also, the way that you play games is always a little bit different than the way other people do. I wouldn't call it incorrect, but like I wouldn't. You seem to very much enjoy your time with that game, so I don't want to imply in any way that you played that game wrong just to have fun with it. I think you you did what you were supposed to do.
right. And I found 6 of the 12 secret missions. Like it's not like
Nice.
I didn't explore. It's just there were times where I'm like, I'm not exploring right now. I want to be done with this. And
Hmm.
again, we'll get to that. Like all of the things that I'm saying is laying groundwork for something else that I did this week. But I really enjoyed Devil May Cry 5, and it's one of those games where the replay value is playing again on a higher difficulty.
Right.
I'm not into that. I talked
Okay.
about it on the special episode with Zach from Saraport Jr., where I'm like, difficulty culture is not my favorite part about a video game.
Hmm.
I like a game that is well designed from the beginning that then you can tear down. And I kind of like, I feel like I did myself a bit of a disservice with Resident Evil 2 by not starting on hardcore mode, because then I had to unlearn a bunch of stuff from standard mode. But then
Right.
thinking about it, I'm like, but standard mode is fun. Like
Yeah.
hardcore mode, it's not fun. It's not the
Right.
same kind of fun. It's a different kind of fun. And I'm experiencing that now with the DLC, The Ghost Survivors. Because if you do it on training mode, it feels like the fourth survivor with Hunk.
Yeah.
Because it gives you health, and that's
Right.
really it. Because Hunk, he has to run this whole gauntlet through the entire game, and they give you like, oh, you have 2 green herbs. Good luck. And, like that feels good. Where like in the Ghost Survivors, they're like, yeah, we didn't really give you health. You gotta find health, and you gotta choose: am I gonna take health or am I gonna take a weapon?
Right.
So it's weird. But playing through on training mode, it feels more like the fourth survivor stuff. So it feels more like that standard mode as opposed to that hardcore mode. And I
Okay.
had fun playing through that way.
Nice.
Sorry, long story short, whatever. And it's not like I want to be upset with anybody. I'm not chastising anybody who likes playing through on the higher difficulty levels of Devil May Cry, but it's a really good story, and it's not. I don't know. I'm really happy with Capcom right now because they are doing the types of games that I love.
Yeah.
Small, easily consumable stories that I'll go back to someday, but I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to jump right back into now. Granted,
I do
Resident
it.
Evil 2, I did, but
Yeah, I would be very surprised if the people around you that are telling you that they're playing Devil May Cry 5 deliberately right now are feeling the same way in 2 months, though. Once they get through and do their deliberate run, those just sound like exactly the kind of people that are the kinds of nutballs that will do Devil May Cry, and I mean that term endearingly, who will go back and play Devil May Cry a billion different ways, and they'll try different characters in different areas, and they will go through things quickly. So you just skipped over the deliberate play part, but that's never been your bag in a lot of cases. Like you're not the kind of guy that necessarily wants to take your time with everything. Like your big thing with Resident Evil was how can I get so good that I can beat this under 2 hours, like that sort of thing. And that's definitely
which
more
I was thinking about
your
that in the
enjoyment
shower
level.
this morning. Sorry. shower. That
Oh
it
no, you
is.
cleanse yourself? How dare you?
Well, I don't want to put any like lewd thoughts in anyone's mind. It's
Oh, okay.
crazy that my second playthrough of Resident Evil 2, the remake, I did without using the item box and in like S rank time.
Hmm.
Like one playthrough as a different character, and I'm like, I know this game. Screw you, Resident Evil 2. I'm Devon Decker.
Yes. It
Yeah, you're
is
right. So that is I
completely
do
insane
that,
for a person to want to do immediately.
yeah, you're right. That is there is a different way that I play games. Then you're right. Everybody find your bliss, live your bliss. That's not the title of the episode, but it'd be a good title for this episode. But the other one is so insanely good, Sejohn.
I've got a stupid one in my head, and there's no way that it could be this one, but I can't think of anything but it. So that's the point I'm at right now with this little
Good,
challenge.
good. I'm
Is
very
I've got
glad.
one. It's like I've got a song stuck in my head, and I can think of no other song now.
Good. That's good because that means you can enjoy the episode. Because like I'm gonna tell you, it's probably that. Anywho, but the other thing is, after I finished Devil May Cry 5, I did play through the like missions that you only got to use one of the three guys for as the other characters.
Nice.
Like I had some brief time before it had to go back where I'm like, and now I'm going to attempt to do some of the stuff I saw as I ran through the story to enjoy the story. So it's not like I didn't ever let that happen. My God. I think it's level 15. Yeah, it's level 15. There's a trophy for getting through it without getting hit by any of the environmental hazards.
Nice.
That was so fun to learn.
Yeah.
And I did that, and like, well, here's the thing. I didn't realize it was not just environmental stuff. So I got all the way to the final boss, like the final fight before the boss,
Yeah.
and I took damage from a bad guy. So I reset the level.
No.
And then I got through all the way again, and then I took the damage again, and I'm like, well, screw it. I'm going to finish the fight. I'm going to finish the level, and I'll feel good about that. I'll feel good about finishing the level, and then that like, good mood will drive me forward to do it.
Right.
I'll get to, like, experiment. Because also, if I'm taking damage from this guy, what's to say I'm not going to take damage from the boss?
Right, exactly.
So I might
But
as well get
you did.
the practice. But I took the damage and I finished it, and I'm like, okay, so now I know what to do. I know how I'm going to approach it. And then I got the little reward, and I'm like, oh, fuck you, Devil May Cry 5. It's called Sick Moves, and it says don't take any unneeded damage in Mission 15. So I'm like, well, to me, that's no damage. That's how
Right.
I read that.
Yeah.
But it just means, and the reason is there is a whole path through that level that gets you through the first half of it without seeing a single environmental hazard. And it requires like precision jumping and like dodging enemy attacks from the ground. And I learned that path, and that was so much fun to learn.
Nice.
So, I mean, I had fun with it going through that way and like looking for smashable walls as one of the characters, and I enjoyed it, but I don't have every vitality orb, or I don't have every devil trigger orb. So I
don't
enjoyed
remember
it.
all of this weird shit about Devil May Cry. The only thing that really I remember, and keep in mind that I haven't touched Devil May Cry since the first week that Devil May Cry 4 came out, was like I remember it being fights. Like I just remember it being almost Bayonetta style, just like fight scene after fight scene after fight scene of crazy combinations. Like that's all I remember from Devil May Cry.
Okay.
And like
And
there's
this-
some story stuff. There's some story stuff too that I remember, but like that's separate from the games because there's just so much insane shit that happens in that story that I love.
So when I was first introduced to Devil May Cry back in high school, it was
Right.
Devil May Cry 2, and what the person who was playing it told me is it's basically a boss rush game. Every mission you fight a boss, and that's
Right.
it. And I'm like, oh, I mean, it's fun to watch, but I'm probably never going to play this game. And that shut me off to the whole Devil May Cry experience. And then for PlayStation 3, they came out with the Devil May Cry HD collection, which is garbage. Hi, Devon Decker here, your PSA of the week. The Devil May Cry HD collection on PS3, hot garbage.
Yeah, I think it's one of the ones that they just kind of threw together in kind of the big climate of doing those HD quote unquote remakes, right?
Yeah,
Like really
it's.
really early on before they were putting any effort into them. Like there's a sliding scale on those is what I'm getting at. And from what I remember, Devil May Cry was towards the bottom of that scale.
I mean, I shared a picture in our like Say Report Discord of they just put like a black bar at the bottom of the picture to make it go from full screen to widescreen. But that black bar does not extend all the way down. So you see the picture underneath it as well.
Stupid idiots.
And I'm just like, that is so and it's not like it's a lot. It's like maybe 2 pixels of height.
But it's enough for you to see
that
movement and for your eyes,
it.
like, yeah, your eyes drawn
Every
to
time.
it.
So I'm like, because like Dale came home as I played through Devil May Cry 2 last night. And I'm like, Dale, check this out. And she's like, oh, that's annoying. And it's like, I didn't point it out. I'm just like, you got to see what's happening on screen right now. And she immediately picked up on it because it is, whoo, and it does not. But the way that I have always thought of it is 2 and 4 are just about fighting.
Yeah.
And 1 and 3 are more about exploration and solving puzzles in addition to the fighting.
Okay. All right.
So if you've only ever played 4, because I always thought of 2 and 4 as the boss rush Devil May Cry games.
Yeah.
And 1, I mean, I've played through 1, and 1's really, really good. I like the first one. And then the third one, everybody got on board the Devil May Cry series with Devil May Cry 2. It's one of those games that, like, most people... It was a Capcom game, really. So most people missed the first one, and then the groundswell of hype for the second one.
Yeah, I mean, that was the story with video games for a while. Capcom being one of the prime examples of it. I mean, look at the Resident Evil series.
Well, look at Mega Man, Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much there. We're going to fart out a game, and then we're going to see if people like it, and we're going to focus on the parts that they liked in the next game.
Yeah.
And it's weird because Devil May Cry 2 is the first time in Capcom games where I think the second one is not a more refined version of the first.
Well, and because of that, it catches a lot of slack. I mean, it wasn't the game that people expected.
Right.
Though, to be fair, the first game, the Devil May Cry 2 is the first Devil May Cry game made as a Devil May Cry game. So, like, there's a lot of elements to that. And then when they want to start actually fleshing that story out and all that shit. So, like...
And then it's weird because the third one comes along, and those people who only came in on the second one hate it. They think it's too hard. They don't understand the other stuff that's going on. Right. And then those people who like didn't like Devil May Cry 2. So it's always been walking a weird line of which camp of fans they're appeasing.
Yeah.
And it feels like Devil May Cry 5 is the first one to make both camps happy.
Yeah, because 4 came along, and there was definitely a moment with 4 where every fan at least went, okay. Like, there was you know what I mean? Like, there was like a collective, like, we're listening moment. Because 4, I remember being the one where I had friends around me who would argue over what the better Devil May Cry games were, you know, and 4 was the first time that they all agreed, at least they got it, at least they're doing something right? And then they lost everybody when they handed off the IP. Did any reason why they did that? Is there like some reason like that they didn't handle that weird?
I honestly can't think of any reason why. I don't know what Capcom was working on at the time to hand off the development to a different one of their studios. Like, it's weird. That game is weird. And actually, what I would believe more is that DMC came out in a time where we did not want to try new ideas in video games.
Well, and funny that we're talking about this because a couple of weeks ago we talked about Prince of Persia, and it's the same company that did the weird Prince of Persia version that we talked about with Nolan North.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was this time where Call of Duty was king, so everybody wanted to do a Call of Duty game, and new IPs were like they were the devil. We're like, we're not going anywhere near a new IP.
If you were a AAA studio, you were not letting anybody, not even your AA underlings, if they even, whatever few you had left in the moment, you weren't letting them go near new IPs.
Yeah. So you were like, no, we're not doing something new. We need to do what's making money right now. We need to do games that everybody's doing. So I feel like a lot of games that were like tangentially similar to games that already existed got called this. Because DMC reminds me of an old PlayStation game called Silhouette Mirage.
Yeah.
Do you remember Silhouette Mirage?
No, I have no clue what that is. I was going to say, for me, the big thing, I played it after I had played Bayonetta, and it was really hard to not see some influences there. I don't know which way they went, but
Silhouette Mirage, you play as a witch. So, sorry, more Bayonetta. But you play as a witch, and everything dies to either silhouette magic or mirage magic. And silhouette is red, and mirage is blue.
Oh.
So...
There's a Gianna Sisters game out there, Ultimate Gianna Sisters Nightmare Powers or something. I'm not getting that name right at all. But the whole idea is you have to switch between the two so that you can defeat certain bad guys with certain powers, right?
Right. And that's sort of what DMC
Twisted
from
Dreams.
what I played.
That's what the name of it is.
Was it?
Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams.
Okay,
that's what it is.
Cool. And that's what DMC felt like, because you had your angel attacks and you had your devil attacks.
Yeah. You had to switch between the two.
And you had to switch
forms.
between the two to do this stuff, and it's just like, oh, this reminds me of Silhouette Mirage, and that's interesting, but it's very not Devil May Cry.
Yeah, no, I understood at the time why Devil May Cry fans were so pissed, because after waiting to see what the next step was going to be after Devil May Cry 4, to get that was a little bit of a slap in the face.
And I think that's the same way that people felt when that Prince of Persia game came out. But it was these things where they're like, these are ready games. These are games that are like 3 months out. Maybe we'll go with a year. These are games that are a year out from being able to be released. Let's slap on a coat of paint of a game that we know people like, and it will sell on that.
Yep.
And the problem, though, is when you slap a name on something, people have expectations from that name.
Right.
So you call it Devil May Cry or DMC : Devil May Cry, and people are expecting it to be that fluid gameplay, the gun system, and a lot of that's gone.
Yeah.
Same with Ditto Prince of Persia. I mean, it's more of an escort mission, that whole game. The fighting is not as big a deal. The bosses, it's like the same boss. It's 4 bosses just repeated.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a Dark Prince at all.
I think there's 4 moves in that whole game that you can do. Like there's like wall run, wall jump, like aerial jump and drop. And I think between those 4 moves is how like the whole game flows together, which is awesome for about 2 hours, not necessarily for 8.
Yeah, there's a reason why I've played that game, and then I'm like, oh, I'm done with you. Thank you. Thank you for the time, but I need to do something else now, Prince of Persia. So it's strange, but yes. So Devil May Cry 5 is awesome. I don't want to own it, though, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I'm nervous about going down the rabbit hole. And maybe someday, but it's not a $60 rabbit hole from where I'm sitting. Like, I had fun with it for $6. I might rent it again. Like, if I have an empty weekend.
I applaud your restraint. I fear renting it again will cause you to just go out and buy it.
That's the thing. That's a very true statement. I don't know. It's fun, though. Definitely try Devil May Cry 5. And it made me last night I played through Devil May Cry 2. And Devil May Cry 2, what a garbage game. I don't mean, everybody always says that it's the worst. I mean, it brought in a whole legion of fans or whatever. But the missions are so short. Like, I go from here to there and it's like mission complete. And it gives me my score and I'm like, that's not a good score. How was I supposed to get higher stylish points? There was nothing to fight between here and there. And apparently there was, but a lot of it is you get attacked by stuff, you kill that stuff, and then if you wait, that stuff respawns. But that's not interesting to me. I want to finish the game.
Yeah. That's it's weird. It's really weird because it does become this whole see, and this is what I mean. This is what I remember from the Devil May Cry series. Because like I touched one for like a hot second, but I was way too I think I was way too immature in my gaming to really get into any game that had that kind of elaborate like sensibility to it. Which is what made Resident Evil so surprising was that at the same time I was touching something like Resident Evil and getting super into it, but there weren't many games like that at all for me. If it wasn't Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I wasn't really that interested, like um but so like Devil May Cry is one that I touched for like a second and really had no sense of. But when Devil May Cry 2 came around, that was the game that people were playing at like LAN parties and shit. Like we would have a PS2 set up somewhere or something so that we could play Devil May Cry. And because it was only 3-second runs on missions, because you could only hop in for 5 minutes and play through stuff, it was really, really popular for that sort of thing. So I think that's where that fan base comes from is the party group, the guys that are sitting around, and gals sitting around that are not interested necessarily in playing out a 4 hour long play session, right? They're just it's something cool to put on the TV while you do shit. Very much that sensibility for me.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and it's just so quick, and I don't know. The thing I really okay, so I cheesed a little bit of Devil May Cry 5. Maybe I think people would call it cheese, but they give you almost all of Dante's weapons, and he gets a
Hmm.
weapon in the first game called the Balrog, which is like gauntlets and boots,
Yeah.
and you fight, and you do like fist fight. But the nice thing about that one is his strikes are so fast, you basically stun lock everything. And they're not particularly strong, so if you're trying to get through it fast, it doesn't work. But then it turns out that because you're constantly dealing damage and the person you're fighting cannot strike back, that the time that you're giving up is negated
Yeah.
because you're not getting hurt, you're not taking damage.
Right.
And they give you that same weapon in Devil May Cry 5, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to see if this works. Yup. And I beat a boss like a dark knight, like a black knight character, and he never got an attack off.
Nice.
And it's
Very
just like,
nice.
yeah, because I know what I'm doing. I know how to use this attack. Same with like Evil Dead. Oh, the one with Sam Raimi's brother as the little homunculus.
As the you mean oh my God. Wait, you mean Ash versus the Evil Dead, or
No,
are you talking about the
there
movies?
are three Evil
Army of
Dead
Darkness.
games. There are three Evil Dead
Oh,
games.
oh, 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 the games.
There's
Jeez, I was trying to
Evil
think of the
Dead.
movies. I was like, what did
No,
I
no, no.
miss?
That doesn't
Sam
happen in
Raimi
a
doing.
movie. No. Uh, there's Evil Dead: Hail to the King, Evil Dead: A Fistful of Boomstick, and then Evil Dead. It's like regeneration or reanimation or, but
Yeah,
it
but I think
doesn't.
Fistful of Boomstick is the one that you're thinking of because
It's
now
not
that's the
Fistful of
only.
Boomstick. It's
No?
the one that I can't think of is the one that I'm thinking of. Because Fistful of Boomstick, you don't have the little homunculus with you, and you really don't get arm upgrades the way that you do in the. I think it's reanimated. Because I was upset that it didn't feature Reanimator. Because in the comics, they did Ash versus Reanimator, and it
For
was
like a
so
while.
cool.
Yeah, for
Like,
like 12 or
yeah,
for
that
like
was a
12 issues,
long
right? Like,
issue.
yeah.
That was a good series, and it was, and the name of this Evil Dead was similar enough to that where I'm like, it'd be so cool if Reanimator was the
Oh,
villain.
it's Regeneration. I'm looking at it
Regeneration.
here. He's
Yeah.
he's straight up on the cover.
He's on the
Like,
cover, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
There's you fight a bunch of harpy type deadites in that
Hmm.
game,
Okay.
but you also, right as they are introduced, you get a harpoon arm.
Nice.
So, he takes off his chainsaw, he puts that on, and you can shoot them and draw them in. And then, in addition to the boomstick, you get a Smith & Wesson handgun.
Nice.
If you use the shotgun while they're on the harpoon, they go flying off, and you need to catch them again. If you use the Smith & Wesson, Ash shoves the gun into them and just keeps shooting. And it's one of those action games where you don't have ammo, or you do have ammo, but like you have such a large clip that you don't even notice that ammo is the thing.
Yeah. I cannot believe that all the three of those Evil Dead games came out. I'm sorry, I've fallen down this hole
Within
now.
6 years of each other.
Within like 5 years of each
Yeah,
other. 2000 is the first one. Then by 2003 we have Fistful of Boomstick, which I remember. Like I
that
remember
one's
people.
cool too. I like that
Yeah,
one a lot.
Fistful of Boomstick was the one that like people were kind of talking about. They were like, "This Evil Dead video games are pretty good." And then Regeneration was just 2 years later, 2005. Like to just to.
Yeah.
I almost wonder though if part of it is because there's not much variation. Like I wonder if it's just a bunch of like using the same assets like 5 years in a row.
Nope.
Like
100%
no,
no. Because Hail to the King is garbage. Hail
yeah.
to the King is the tank controls, but not as pretty as Resident Evil, which is saying something. Even though it was a Dreamcast game, that game's almost unplayable. Like I've watched people finish that game in like YouTube videos and stuff, and I'm like, I could never. Like the patience that is required to beat Hail to the King,
I gotta
I
check this
don't
out.
have. And Fist of the Boomstick, the only reason I say that game is quick because it's almost open world. Like
Hmm.
they give you the town and then you travel through time. So you just get to see the town in different like things. Like you get to see it in colonial times, you get to see it in medieval times, but it's the same basic layout.
Which is ridiculous, by the way. There would not be a colonial town in the same place where there was a medieval town.
Yes, I know that. Maybe I'm wrong about how it
No,
is.
no. I don't think you're wrong. I bet that is definitely something that happens in that game because that is the exact kind of storytelling you get from somebody like Sam Raimi
Yeah. I
and
mean
anybody working on that.
it's cool. I like that game a lot. I really like that game because of the end, the reveal of who the big bad is and the whole storyline is awesome. Like it's really good. But then Regeneration, is it Regeneration?
Yes, it is.
All right. So Evil Dead Regeneration, you are in a town, but it does not look anything like Dearborn. Oh my god, that's the name of it. Dearborn from Fistful of Boomstick. So like it's very clearly a differently designed town, and you go to all different places in that town.
Hmm.
And I mean the model of Ash is 100% different. It's not even like they took that asset and dropped it in. They reanimated Ash for Regeneration, and they added the whole different guns and different arms aspect to the game, where that is not a
That's
part.
pretty fucking crazy. Who the hell had that much money to be throwing at an
Sam
Evil Dead
Raimi,
video
Sam
game
fucking Raimi,
franchise?
Sam
Yeah.
Raimi. He was
Yeah, I
he was
guess
riding fucking high from Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
and
Yeah, I
he
guess
was
when the guy
throwing
from
his money
Spider-Man
at
gets some money.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's why there was the resurgence of Evil Dead comic books right around that time. It's all because of the success of Spider-Man.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, isn't it? Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that. But yeah, it's crazy. And that Regeneration game, once I accidentally shot one of those harpies with the handgun, and I'm like, oh, this is how you kill them, because they can't get away. They're on the harpoon,
Right.
so you just keep shooting until they die. And I'm like, I don't know if this was intended. And I'm really happy that patching video games isn't a thing yet.
Yeah, man. We found the harpies too easy to kill, so we're taking that
Yep.
out.
And that's the
That's an
kind of stuff,
exploit.
and this whole discussion about how I play video games like fast, like to finish them and then go back. That's why I hate when there's a complaint about this was too easy to kill, because it's like, or you had to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, just because you lucked into the solution doesn't always mean everybody has. There's definitely been times when people are like, "This game's too easy," and I just want to slap them because I haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
Um,
And if I've ever made you feel that way, I want to apologize. But it's a lot of
I'm
the
looking
time
at
where,
you.
like, what I'm saying is, oh, there's a way to do that
Mhm.
that exists. And the other thing is, again, it goes back to a discussion we had earlier about options and
Mhm.
like giving you options to play. Even if you find that way to kill the harpies, you don't have to use it. You can
Yeah.
say this is too cheap. I'm gonna make it harder on myself by using the shotgun. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
find
go
the kind of
away.
people out there. I find the kind of people out there that are going to bitch and moan about a video game being too easy are not the ones that have that kind of self-control. But I get what you're saying.
Well, and that's the thing. They'd rather bitch and moan about it than say, I'm not going to do that. And it's
Right.
like, what's the point then?
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, and the Cuphead stuff, I completely understood fixing the hitboxes. Like
Yeah.
the fact that there were floating hitboxes where you could do damage to the boss before it was even on screen. I understand that one. I
Yeah.
don't understand when they're like, the charge shot is overpowered. And it's like, yeah, the charge shot is overpowered because you're not doing the same DPS when you use the charge shot. Like, you guys have to have tested it. And they nerfed it to the point where it's like not even a viable weapon anymore.
Yeah.
And that's how I beat the game, was with the charge shot, because it felt like Mega Man.
Mm.
I don't know what we're talking about. No, I do. It's all video games. It's all been video games. I beat Jaws,
Yeah.
which is fun. I mean, I've beaten that game before. I own it on regular NES, but they did the Big 20 on March 2nd. Are you familiar
Okay.
with the Big 20 and
No,
what it
what is
is?
the Big 20?
So the NES Big 20 is they give you 20 games that need to be beaten, and it's like a big marathon. I think 40 people took place. It's the 10th anniversary of it
Damn.
this year. And the 20
That's how
games,
you organize a competition.
Yes, it is. And so it's 20 games, and I watched the like first 7 people finish. Like, they put out a YouTube video with the first 7 people finishing it.
Oh, damn.
And it's like one of those things where I'd like to see if I can beat these games. So that's one of the reasons why I went back to Contra and why I played through Jaws, because I beat it when I got it for my NES, but I haven't played it since. And it makes sense because it's a quick game. I think I beat it in 11 minutes, but that's because I know
Excellent.
what to do.
Oh man. Yeah. First you go out and get a bigger boat.
No. Your boat stays the same size. It's the craziest thing about it is it's weirdly based on Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh God. Fantastic.
Because of the year. And I only say that since when you win the game, you fly off in a seaplane. And I'm like, that's the end of Jaws: The Revenge.
That's very specifically the end of one of those Jaws movies, and it's not the first one.
Or the second or the third.
So is Michael Caine there the whole time too?
No, your character is either a boat or a little scuba diving man.
A boat. You remember that great character from Jaws, Boat?
Well, it's in every movie. I'm proud of that one. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, it's a fun game, and I'm glad I got to play through that again. But yeah, I don't know. Devon May Cry 2 is super easy. I'm trying to think of other stuff that I've done. Oh, I got some really good Super Nintendo games over the weekend.
Nice.
I got another copy of Donkey Kong Country 3 because mine just randomly died.
Really?
Yeah, I was super disappointed.
I have found that in going back and trying to play some Donkey Kong games, because I mean, I love that series and I do it from time to time anyway, but specifically a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Donkey Kong. Because we were talking about the new Tropical Freeze mode that's available on the Switch with Funky, right?
Yep.
But I have found going back that 2 is really my jam. I don't know what it is, but 3 I just can't seem to get into. And I remember even when I was first playing it, it was not my favorite one of them. I don't know. I like 3 is just not one that I can. I don't like the. There's the weird element of the overlay map where you need to like go and find supplies so that you can build a boat and like all that sort of weird stuff. And it doesn't amount to anything as far as I know. Like,
nope,
or feel
everything
like,
for the boats you get from bosses. So it's not
yeah.
even like the exploration that you do in that game is to collect 40 banana birds.
Yeah,
And
like
it's
there's
to get
just
a final scene
so
that is stupid. I don't mean to be rude, but like,
no, it's not worth
good.
it. It's essentially, yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like it just feels like everything in that game is amounting to nothing. Whereas in the second game, I don't know, man. Like there's all this really cool like visual stuff that you see throughout the game that really kind of like tells the story of what's going on. I mean, like every level that you go into feels like it has a story unto itself as well as being part of the bigger thing. It just feels like it's a really well thought out, cohesive like world, you know. And the first one is what it is. Like it's kind of iconic, and it's hard for me to look at that game without rose-colored glasses on, because it was, first of all, one of the first video games I ever owned, one of the first video games I ever beat. So like I just fucking love Donkey Kong Country. So like it's really hard for me to really kind of critique it in any meaningful way, other than to just be like, it laid the groundwork for a pretty rock solid Nintendo series. The end, like it's up there for Super Mario World with me. Like it's just pretty.
Oh, and that
damn
makes
good.
sense. The issue is, and we talked about it earlier, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, really refines what Donkey Kong Country could and should be.
That's true.
By having, because there is that element to Donkey Kong Country, and I don't know, raise your hand out there if you've ever gotten 101% on Donkey Kong Country.
And in the air.
Me too, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like in Donkey Kong Country 2 where it's very obvious what you need to collect and where you need to go.
Right.
In the first Donkey Kong Country, you basically just need to explore around until you find bonus rooms.
Right.
And then you don't even need to win those bonus rooms. It's just like you need to go into this bonus room in order to get that like extra % added to your total at the end.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, I mean, what I think Donkey Kong Country did really well is I think there's just some really damn good boss fights. Like on top of the style of animation and the way that it like brought the world to life and the way that all of that kind of came together, it also, what they were able to do with like really good boss fights is pretty amazing. And in the first game, they're good, but then at some point, like,
No,
I think at the time
repeats. It's
you
basically
it
fight
feels repetitive.
There's 4 different bosses in that game.
Yeah, they start getting redundant, right?
Well, it's not that they get redundant. It's that you fight a giant beaver, and then in the 4th level, you fight a giant beaver again.
But he's a zombie, right? Isn't that like the joke?
No, that's Donkey Kong Country 2.
Yeah. See, so in 2, I think they also do a better job with the boss levels, and considering that I think that that's such a major part of Donkey Kong Country, that's the other reason why I think I love 2 so much, is because I think it just does such a good job. Very like because is 2 the one with the giant ass bee that you fight down in the mine shafts?
Well, each of them has you fight a bee, but 2 is the one where you fight the bee as Squawks, and you have to hit it into Stinger.
Yeah.
And that fight's
so is that
awesome.
At the end of the roller coaster?
Yep.
It was on the roller. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Is that level's cool? Crazy Kremland is crazy.
Yeah.
That is, first of all, huge stab at Disney World. Huge stab at Disney World because it's built on on swampland.
Right.
So so before you go into Crazy Kremland, you do swamp levels.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's so good. Like, what a weird stab at Disney World. And the fact that it's built on swampland.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. And then and there's bees and there's brambles. I mean, Donkey Kong Country 2 is my favorite. Because it handles the collectathon. It handles each level feeling like its own unique story the best.
Yeah.
The problem with Donkey Kong Country 3 boils down to something that is written in the Nintendo Power preview of Donkey Kong Country 3, and that is, we have focused on the boss fights. It's not going to be jump on their head 3 times and they die. You're going to need to solve the puzzle of each boss.
Right.
And I don't mean to be rude, that's a tall order that you guys just put together.
Yeah.
The first boss is a puzzle. You gotta feed it beetles so that it burps and falls off a cliff.
Right.
The second boss, you jump on his head 5 times. The third boss, you jump on his head 6 times. The fourth boss, you're an elephant and you have to shoot its eyes. That's pretty cool. The 5th boss, you gotta throw things at a snowman.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. 6th boss, you gotta hit him 3 times. Like, it's one of these things where it's like, you guys overpromised on these boss fights.
Yeah.
Because but the levels and the issue, and it's weird because in Donkey Kong Country 2, I never thought of it. And my biggest complaint about Donkey Kong Country Returns is how gimmicky the levels feel. Like, every level has like a gimmick, but that really goes back to Donkey Kong Country 3. Because every level has a freaking gimmick.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's like, and sometimes they put the gimmick above good level design.
Yeah.
But what I will
This
say
is the
about
windy one.
this, well, it's not even that. It's like, the one where your controls are reversed and it's a water level.
Oof.
Like, that's awful. Like, that's not fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or the one where lightning strikes, and if you're in the water when lightning strikes, you die. And it's
Right.
like,
And it's a bitch because like you gotta constantly judge when you're gotta jump out of the water, right? Yeah. Ugh.
yeah, it's just, oh, I
And
mean,
it's not fun. It's not like a fun challenge. It's just like this is just making the rest of this level just more difficult.
it's one of those things where you're like, oh, this is a cool concept. This is not a fun concept.
This is a bad execution. Good concept, bad
Yeah.
execution.
And that's one of those things. But the funny thing about Donkey Kong Country 3 is I beat it second.
Yeah.
Because I owned Donkey Kong Country, I rented Donkey Kong Country 2 and did not finish it. And then I got Donkey Kong Country 3 for Christmas. And I remember being so happy because I beat it in 3 days.
Nice.
Like, I'm like, oh, I beat it in 3 days. And I didn't beat it 100%. I just got through the game in 3 days' time. Got it on the 25th, finished it on the 28th. I was happy. I was happy as a pig of shit. And I look back at that little kid, right? 96 Devon Decker, so 10 years old. And like, brother, one day you won't be able to beat this game in 90 minutes.
Don't worry, my son. One
Like,
day you will be there.
Don't lose your enthusiasm for finishing video games. But
As
you're
quickly
gonna
as possible.
finish video games so much faster. You're gonna be one day. You're gonna be 33 years old, and you're gonna be doing a podcast. What's a podcast? Don't worry about it. You're gonna be doing a podcast, and you're gonna be talking about how I used to beat this game in 3 days, and now I beat it in
Sorry.
90
Can I hear?
minutes.
Can I hear little Devin Decker's voice again? I just need to. Can I get a sound clip on that?
Hi, Sejohn.
Oh,
How
oh
are
God.
you?
Oh, I'm pretty good, little Devin. This is the creepiest voice I think that Big Devin's ever created,
Oh,
though.
I'm sorry. I just went with the voice.
See, in my head, you're still Devin. You're just smaller. Like you're just like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the worst part about de-aging your friends that you met as an adult or semi-adult. We were 18
There's no way
when
that
we
you
met.
were ever a child.
Is that like you were you?
Yes.
It's like little David Howard when he told me the story about Jaws. It's like you were still David Howard. Your mom just smacked you in the face.
Oh man.
Oh, dude, this was good. This was fun. I'm trying to think of anything else that I did. I'm not really caught up on anything. Black Monday, if you have access to Showtime, I don't know if they just streamed to that or if it's anything else. Black Monday is awesome, and it has only gotten better.
What is Black Monday?
Black Monday is based on the stock market crash in the 80s, like I think 87 it happened.
Okay.
The largest like Dow drop in the history of Wall Street.
Right.
And it starts a year before that happened. Well, it actually starts with someone jumping out of a building on Black Monday.
So I was gonna say this is where the trope comes from, right? Where like things get so bad that people were straight up just like killing themselves.
Right? Yeah, that's where that comes from. And then they rewind 365 days before that moment, and it's just telling the story of how it got there. The cast is really the thing that makes this show shine. Is Don Cheadle, Regina Hall, Paul Scheer, Horatio Sands, Andrew Rannells, Penny from Happy Endings. I know her name, Casey Wilson. Like, it's this crazy good cast. The goof guy, I cannot think of his name.
Dan Marino? Not Dan Marino.
Yeah. No,
it is Dan Marino.
Ken Marino.
Ken Marino. Dan Marino is the quarterback.
Yes, very
Ken
good.
Marino.
Ken Marino plays the Lehman Brothers.
Wow.
In a dual role, and it's so good.
So is this sounds like this might be a little bit on Judd Apatow's like wheelhouse from
It's
doing...
Seth Rogen and Evan Smith.
Oh, so this is yeah.
So
but I
they're
was just
the
thinking
ones...
with them doing Big Short wasn't Apatow the one that did Big Short?
No, it was Adam McKay.
Adam McKay, that's who I'm thinking of. And
who
then he
is
just this
friends
year
with
just
Judd
did
Apatow. I mean,
right,
like,
yeah.
because
It's
Judd
that same
Apatow, I think, produced Anchorman.
something like
He
that.
was
But they
involved in
but
Anchorman in some way, and that's what allowed him to do the 40-Year-Old Virgin and become Judd Apatow as just
as
Judd
we know
Apatow,
him.
movie
Yeah.
director.
Yeah, but this definitely sounds like it's in that Adam McKay wheelhouse of like The Big Short, and what was the other one that they just did this past year?
Vice.
Oh, Vice, right, which was the big.
Right. And I only taped it because I watched Smilf, which
Mm.
apparently got canceled.
Aw.
And I'm only like half upset about that. The first season of Smilf is still really good television. The second season has been so hit or miss
Yeah.
that it's like I'm like I understand why they canceled you. And I almost wonder if Frankie Shaw, the creator of the show, kind of was like, I'm done with this story, and just took the second season to like do things she always wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
she got to make out with Kevin Bacon. He was in an episode of the show and made out with her. Like that was cool. That's actually a very funny scene. I will reference that episode as a really good episode of Smilf season 2. But then
Nice.
there's been episodes where like you just see the people who are like around her, only their stories, and she's not even in it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of weird. Because last week it felt like she was about to get on track. But then I saw Black Monday was airing after it, and I'm like, I'll check it out. First show, Don Cheadle's there. I'll check it out. And I now look forward to Black Monday. Black Monday is the first show that has had me excited about television the way I was excited about television when Fargo premiered.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
and that same level of you think you know all the players, and then we introduce a whole slew more at the end of like the 5th episode.
Damn.
Oh, Melissa Rauch is in it too. Bernadette from The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
not doing Bernadette. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's cool.
And I of the people on The Big Bang Theory, the person I want to have a career after The Big Bang Theory is Melissa Rauch.
Yeah, Blossom, right? Wasn't
No,
she?
that's Mayim Bialik.
Which one is Melissa Rauch? Is she the one that was on Roseanne?
No, that's no one. That's what?
Wasn't the
you
one that
talking
played one
about
of those?
Darcy?
Yeah, maybe.
I
don't know. I don't watch The Big Bang Theory,
What's
so.
her name? No, it's okay. It's completely fine. Now I need to think of her name because she's on the Connors. She's playing Darlene
Sarah
again.
Chalk?
Not
Is that
Sarah
Chalk?
Chalk. I kept wanting to say Sarah Chalk. Sarah Gilbert.
This is the part of the show where we turn into 80-year-old men trying to figure out.
I think it's Sarah Gilbert. Yeah. So she is the one who's dating Howard. I know that you don't watch The Big Bang Theory. She did the Bronze.
Oh, right. She played the shark in Jaws, right?
Yes, she played
that
the
one.
shark in Jaws. What?
Now I remember. We're good.
You're an asshole. But yeah, that show, I'm gonna recommend it. I also recommend Smilf too. Like I told Will to watch Smilf, and he's like, "Oh, good," because like it keeps coming up, and I wanted to check it out, but I didn't know. So watch Smilf. Just know that the second season is very different from the first. But hopefully, the only reason I watched Smilf is because I woke up and it was on my television, and in the 5 minutes that I watched, I just fell in love with that main character of Bridget Bird. So I don't know, it's real good. Which brings me to something else, not even the game. Will was trying to. I was looking for something to do last night before I played Devil May Cry 2. And Will told me to go on a Will reunion tour, sans Will.
Okay.
So he's like, you'll go to like the Muse Tavern, and you'll go to this comic book shop on Route 1 near the big Walmart.
Nice.
Is there a comic book shop on Route 1 near the big Walmart that I just don't know about?
No, he's probably mixing it up with some other place that we've been to, or you and him have been to.
Okay,
I also don't live in the area, so
I
there's also a
understand that,
good
but
chance I'm
okay,
completely missing
all right,
it.
but I'm just saying it's that same sort of like college memories.
Yeah.
So and it might have been somewhere you went where I'm like, no, I don't think there is one near a Walmart.
I'm trying to remember. Like I'm thinking of Route 1, and
So
the
the
Walmart
big
near you
Walmart
in
is
Coventry?
westerly, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think.
There's
Yeah.
no comic book stores near that. And
No,
it would also
it-
make
it-
sense because he lived in Matunic for a long time. He lived and worked in Matunic. but I don't think there's any comic book shops near that. And then it's like Newberry Comics, maybe.
Oh, maybe he's thinking of the giant ass one that's down. Isn't Route 1 the one that like the giant ass one is down over by Ernie
in
Bosch
Massachusetts?
Jr. Yeah, he's just like, welcome to Ernie Bosch Jr.'s House of Cars or whatever, where he owns like 20 miles of land.
It's either Norwich or Norwalk, Massachusetts. Yeah. It's exit 9A off of 95. I love that. That Newberry Comics is so good.
It's so big. Yeah, I love that one. And that's the one with the arcade in the back, right?
It's so big, but it's also so neat and clean in there. Yeah. Like, you'd think the smaller one should be this neat and clean.
You would think that. Stuff.
Oh, man. All right. Okay. So now you've been listening to us talk for 65 minutes. It's time to see if Sejohn has sussed out the title of this episode.
Look, this is the thing that came into my head the moment that you introduced the idea of this game to me, and I have not been able to think of anything but this the entire time. I've gotten real quiet, and I've gotten deep in my head trying to figure out what you could possibly mean, and the only stupid pun name that I could come up with is very simply the Devon May Report.
Nope.
See? You were so convinced I was going to get it.
I was convinced because you said, I got it. It's so simple. I got it.
I
completely got it.
No, but you said
it's so simple. I'm stuck on something. That's what I'm going to go with. And the worst part is, you're so close. You're so close. You definitely picked the right thing that I'm going to punify for the title. Do you want to take another stab at it?
Oh no. The Dante Report?
No. It's not the report. It's not a report episode.
Yeah, I don't know then. I'm gone. I'm lost. You've lost me.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap it up, I hope that you've enjoyed listening to episode 113 of the Say Report, Devon May Cry.
Stupid.
Yes, stupid.
Love
That's why I was convinced you got there.
I love it.
I was driving home and I'm like, oh, this episode is called Devon May Cry. There's no way it's not being called that. So if you want to chastise me for inserting myself into the title of the episode, you can find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
If you want to help me figure out ways to make Devon cry now, you can find me at Seed versus the World.
I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what makes me freaking cry? Cheers.
Oh, been watching a bunch of that too lately.
I just got into season 4. I'm like 6 episodes into season 4, and Nick Colasanto's last scene, it just made me cry, and I'm like, because that's the last time he was ever on Cheers. Hot, like the kind of tears that are so cold that it's just like, but they're happy. I don't know. So Devon,
look at that, everybody. Devon did cry.
Devon did cry, but Devon May Cry is a better title. So deal with it. Will, bring us home, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.